Hey folks, welcome back to Chris Wine Africa. Well, World Rugby has spoken. From on high at Mount Olympus, the World Rugby organization has spoken out about the press conference or video released by South Africa's director of rugby, Rassie Erasmus, last week, the world-winning Rugby World Cup coach from 2019. Rassie Erasmus, who stepped down after he won the World Cup to become the director of rugby, handing the reins over to Jacques Nienaber, although it seems like maybe Rassie's still running this team. Who knows? But here's the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen. Last week, Rassie Erasmus, in response to inappropriate and wildly off the mark and violation of World Rugby orders and laws, Warren Gatland, the coach of the British and Irish Lions, moaned and complained about the selection of Marius Jonker, a South African, as the television match official, in an effort clearly meant to force the issue or perhaps even intimidate Marius Jonker into being careful about his calls. We heard an endless stream from Warren Gatland before the first test match. World Rugby took no action. No action against Warren Gatland. No investigation, no comments, nothing to tell him to knock it off. They just allowed him to yap all week long. Now, the Kiwi, who's the coach of the British and Irish Lions, continued to complain about Marius Jonker and the officiating before the game ever took off. Having watched the first British and Irish Lions Springboks test match, I can tell you that this was a game that really needs a lot of scrutiny by World Rugby. But instead of World Rugby coming out and saying they're looking at some of the concerns about officiating, nope, they did nothing. So Rassie Erasmus does the unthinkable. He holds a press conference in which he speaks out about it. He offered 26 different video views on some things, and one can argue about him being ticky-tacky. Of course, the Anglophone world, with the United Kingdom, the Irish press, the Australian Rugby Union complaining about it, of course they would. But the problem is that no one is saying this. Nothing that Rassie Erasmus has said has been refuted. They simply say that he broke the rules. He broke the rules by talking. Well, how long should we sit here and allow World Rugby to ignore the conduct of the British and Irish Lions team and their coach and do nothing about it? Did he break the rules of good gentlemanly behavior? Perhaps he did. But that's not really germane here, is it, folks? So of the 26 video clips that he offered, you could argue some were ticky-tack. He was just being a little sensitive. But the British and Irish press and the Australian press said it was a tirade, a rant. You want a rant? Watch my channel. There's no rant. He's rather calm. He's cheeky at times, but hardly a rant, pointing out the obvious here. Now, I'm going to show 4 little clips that Rassie showed of the 26, and then I'm going to talk about their sanctions as well. But the 4 to start off with, and then I'll tell you about what World Rugby has said, is Faf de Klerk, the shoulder charge by Curry. No penalty called, no card issued. Makazole Mpimpi breaks through, and he's grabbed from behind and held up. Foul play. Damien de Allende tackled around the neck, choke hold by 2 British and Irish Lions players, and drug on as de Allende surged for about 6 or 8 more meters. No penalty called. Villy Leroux, tip tackle, dangerous. And World Rugby created this crisis. Why? Because they sat by silently. So this is what World Rugby had to say. Match officials are the backbone of the sport, and without them, there's no game. World Rugby condemns any public criticism of their selection, performance, or integrity, which undermines their role, the well-established and trust-based coach officials' feedback process, and more importantly, the values that are at the heart of the sport. Okay, I can buy that. Having conducted a full review of all the available information, World Rugby is concerned that individuals from both teams have commented on the selection and or performance of match officials. Well, it's good to see that World Rugby will be balanced in this investigation, that they're going to look into both the Springboks, Rassie Erasmus, and the British and Irish Lions and Warren Gatland, who started all this, since you said both teams. However, World Rugby says, however, the extensive and direct nature of the comments made by Rassie Erasmus within a video address in particular meets the threshold to be considered a breach of World Rugby Regulation 18, misconduct and code of conduct, and will now be considered by an independent disciplinary panel. The date and panel will be confirmed in due course. So you're not balanced. You allow the British and Irish Lions to break the rules which warrant an investigation or a sanction, and only when South Africa responds do you single them out. World Rugby has reminded the management of both teams of the importance of this area and their obligations regarding the values of the sport. In order to protect the integrity of the sport and its values, World Rugby will also undertake a review of its code of conduct relating to incidents of this nature with a view to strengthening scope, rules, and sanctions. To which I read, you must tolerate underperformance by officials and keep your mouth shut, or we will sanction you. And since our rules are too loose and allow you to say that now, we're going to change the rules so that we'll punish you if you complain or mention the misconduct. Rassie Erasmus simply showed video and pointed out the obvious, blatant bias and the missed calls. I mean, how does the shoulder charge on Faf de Klerk get missed? The official's right in front of it. You can see him on the video. It's not like he was on the other side of the field. You can forgive an official for missing something on the other side of the field or behind their back because they can only see one direction. The field judge saw it right in front of him. The side judge was right there. Unacceptable. As with any test series, South Africa versus the British and Irish Lions is a showcase of rugby that generates great excitement and interest, even more so at this challenging time for sport and society. It is an opportunity for both teams and their management to set a positive example and concentrate on the spectacle and a wonderful example of rugby and its values at their best. This is the statement from World Rugby. What I have to say about this statement is the following, folks. This series will be remembered for the abysmal situation it's in. Number one, the decision by the South African Rugby Union not to allow spectators to attend the games. That's going to be remembered. That ruined this series. In addition to that, it's going to be remembered for Warren Gatland running his mouth. Now, it will also be remembered for Rassie Erasmus, but because you took no action and because the abysmal performance of officiating in the first match, that's what, if Rassie had never made a video and never been remembered, he never said anything about it, we will remember this British and Irish Lions tour for no spectators, for the blowouts against the Currie Cup teams that weren't even a competition for the British and Irish Lions, they weren't even an exhibition, and for Warren Gatland trying to intimidate and influence the officials, and then their abysmal performance in the first game. That's what the series would have been remembered for. You're only getting a free pass to let Warren Gatland off the hook because Rassie Erasmus said something that millions of people saw, and he did it. So here are the 4 clips and the comments. The first one here is the shoulder charge by Currie on Faf de Klerk.
Faf carries the ball and Currie shoulder charge him late.
It's clear. How does he miss that? How does he miss that? Now, how does this get missed? I could see it being missed by the official on the field, by Nick Berry, but the side judge?
You can clearly see Makazole being held back. Now, whatever you say, that's foul play.
The television crew clearly caught this, and the TMO played the whole play, and there was no mention of it. They didn't talk about it. They're more worried about whether Damian Delaney touched the ball, or it was a knock-on down there, or whether it was grounded properly, what was going on. Makazole and Pipi is impeded here. That is foul play. That's a card. Nothing done. Now this one here. You also had Springboks who made high tackles, and some of them were missed. But this goes on for meter after meter.
Damian Delaney had a level change here. Now, again...
2 guys choking him around the neck. Obvious. Seen all over. Nothing. Not even a penalty.
The same happened with the 2 tackles where the South African players tackled. There was also a level change, but this was not penalized.
This was the most egregious of the day. The tip tackle on Willie Leroux. No card. Nothing. Nothing.
Willie catches a ball. Amish Watson gets him. I don't think anybody can argue that he tips him beyond the 90. And
Willie Leroux is injured. Has a clear impact on the game. It showed the officials had lost control of this game. And finally, this whole thing occurred because World Rugby allowed Warren Gatland to get away with the very things they're now going to investigate Rassie Erasmus and South African rugby for.
To Marius Jonker, which is the person that Warren Gatland has openly now put so much pressure on during the week.
Why weren't the British and Irish Lions? Why wasn't Warren Gatland given a warning and investigated the week prior, before this match ever occurred? And then as long as Rassie kept his mouth shut for a couple of days, still nothing. Then he spoke up, and now suddenly World Rugby is interested. Well, the ill repute and disrepute that's brought in the game is brought by World Rugby, and it's selective outrage, ignoring Warren Gatland, while recognizing that what he did was inappropriate. Well, folks, if you're not a subscriber, why don't you become one? Smash that button right down there. Be sure to follow us on Chris Wine Africa and Rugby Ascendant. Thanks a lot. Appreciate your support. Catch you later.